What is up, everybody? Welcome back to MLB Swing for the Fences, talking Wednesday morning, afternoon baseball here on Run Pure Sports YouTube channel. You guys know me by now. I'm Draft Cheat. Joined today, a very special show. We've got Statsational and we got Big T, three-man booth here on a fun Wednesday afternoon baseball slate. Stats, haven't done a show with you yet so far on the young season. How you doing on this early baseball season?
Doing well, man. For some reason, I don't know if it was the anticipation of the show or maybe some other reason, but I was up at like 4:45 and ready to go. So not exactly ready to go. I was just kind of laying in bed, but I think I was just excited to see DC again, man. Like you said, I haven't done a show with you this year. It's been a while.
Yeah, happy to be here talking baseball with you. Of course, happy the season's back. Three-man crew this morning, absolutely, Sam. And yeah, hopefully getting the winners on a interesting slate with a lot of top-end pitching and, frankly, not many offenses that look all that good. We'll obviously try to get to the bottom of it throughout the hour that we're here with you guys. Big T getting us up early here on Wednesday morning. But, there's baseball to talk about, so it's all good. How you doing, Big T, here on Wednesday?
Yeah, we talked about it before the baseball season, but I was just super confident in what we're putting out for baseball with all kinds of new products on there. Stats has a boom rating on there for some hitters. I mean, we literally have everything you could possibly need. So I was super confident coming into the year. Even in our private meetings, we were all talking about it, and it's just come out on fire. Just members winning, staff winning. It's just been awesome, which, again, I'm more of an NBA guy than I know DC's a baseball guy. Stats is kind of an everything guy. But as an NBA guy, I don't like baseball as much. But with the way basketball's gone, I've looked forward to baseball, just all the news, and it started, and it's been awesome. SaberSim's been awesome, too, with the builds. I'm just super confident, and then you get some of these early slates like this that I like even more. Who doesn't like a little afternoon action to get the day going?
Well, yeah, a little afternoon delight here with the baseball. Yeah, Stats with the boom rating. Members know.
And I heard you guys talking about some pitcher stuff in the works too, which I'm excited about. I like all stuff like that, just because I always want to narrow my pool down. So anything to get a little leverage at pitcher. I heard you both talking about it. I was listening in, getting excited.
Yeah, 100%. And like you said, it's been a really good start here for the RPS baseball team. Schlong had the big six-figure plus score a couple nights ago. We had AP with the big score of members showing up. We had a member who's been playing MLB DFS for, he said he used to follow me back in the Guru Elite days, which is a number of years, but he won his first MLB live final seed over on FanDuel. So you love to see that. Love to get messages like that. And a lot of winners in the chat as well. So we'll hope to keep it going today. Like we said, it is an interesting slate. We have a lot of the team's number one pitchers coming back around, to start today. I mean, frankly, most of these guys started opening day or the day after. So it is a kind of a tough slate, I think, for hitting, especially, everybody wanting to pay for pitching. So I like the slate quite a bit. It is, I think, going to be a volatile one, but we'll try to get to the bottom of it. Do you guys like doing pitching by itself first, or do you like going game by game, talking about the pitchers as we go? Stats, I'm going to leave this one to you. You make the call here. Pitching by itself or game by game? Go ahead.
Yeah, I kind of like going game by game. I don't know.
That's my preference too. I can talk about kind of the hitters in relation to the pitchers. So we'll do that, and we will start out then in Tampa Bay, Pittsburgh, and the Tampa Bay Rays here. Or Tampa Rays, I guess. Interesting. It's going to be really, really hot and humid in Tampa to start this game. Looks like it's going to be 90 degrees at game time, warming up perhaps into the mid-90s with humidity around 50% as well. So going to be a common theme all year long for the Rays in Steinbrenner Field. We know this. We expect this stadium to play very offensive friendly. But maybe not today, because we got two pretty good pitchers on the mound. Obviously, the Pirates ace, Paul Skeens going. He was, I wouldn't say mediocre, but maybe a little bit disappointing in his opening day start. I was on him. Again, was a little bit of a disappointing performance. Does get a pretty good matchup here against the Rays. I know the Rays have put up some offense recently. But still, I think a matchup that you can target. So I do like Skeens at the 10.3K price tag. Not as much as maybe some other pitchers around that price tag. So we'll talk about him. And then Ryan Pepio going for the Rays was very strong his first start. It was a matchup against the Rockies, so you do got to take it, I think, with a little bit of a grain of salt. But he gets another good one here against Pittsburgh, whose offense I really don't have a ton of respect for. I like Pepio here at 7,200, and it's weird stats on a slate where there's all these aces. I kind of like paying down for pitching a little bit on this slate to get different, just because there's not that many bats that I want that aren't expensive. So personally thinking about flipping the build a little bit here and trying to get some of these stud hitters into my lineups. And Pepio is, kind of a building block, I think, for that type of build, projecting out pretty well, I think, especially for the price tag point per dollar wise. So I like both these pitchers, and frankly, despite the good offensive environment, I think I'm mostly staying away from bats here. We'll start with you, Stats. What are you doing with Pirates and Rays to open up the slate?
Yeah, I mean, I like what you said as far as Pepio goes. I mean, Skeens, I don't know how deep we have to get into it, but of a day where we've got aces going, he's the ace of the ace. So, I mean, he is the best pitcher on this slate. I don't think there's any doubt about that. He'll be the highest owned pitcher, and he's the top pitcher that I have in my rankings. But I think the focus needs to be on Pepio here, and 6.5 strikeouts is his number in the betting market. It's -109 to the over, so it's kind of right at that 6.5 projection, and you're getting that at a really good price. So I like your thinking of maybe paying down here. I've got him as my number 3 pitcher on the slate overall, $7,200. I really like that. I like that idea to go that way. We had a whole discussion in the chat last night. I'm within 30 minutes of the stadium here. It is getting hot today. This is the hottest day we've had this year. And so we had a whole discussion about heat and humidity and how the ball is going to be flying out of that ballpark. But I wouldn't put too much weight in that. The total is obviously super low here. These are 2 of the lowest team totals on the slate. I'm not even thinking about any of these hitters. And I like playing, I know we're going to get the question, can you play pitcher against pitcher? On a big GPP, you absolutely can. So I like both pitchers here, and I'm probably going to be higher on Pepio than the market will be.
Yeah, it looks like Pepio might be gaining some steam in terms of ownership, which I think we both agree that he probably should, right? I think he's, in my mind, he should be one of the higher owned pitchers, just given the price tag and the context of the slate. So happy to hear you're in on Pepio, Skeens. What about you, Big T? What are you doing with Pepio, Skeens, and any love for the offenses here in this one?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a clear spot, just like you guys were saying. And Skeens wasn't amazing in the first start, but he still had, I think, 7 Ks. I can't check it because the damn DraftKings. When do they get my game log stats? I need my game logs on DraftKings.
So you got connections in the DraftKings office. Can you send a text somewhere and get some game logs for us?
Every day when I pull it up, I'm just hoping it's the day that they finally get it going, because I like pulling that stuff up to have the stats handy. But I know he was still solid, though. First start, early, each one he's going to get more form, and, man, he looks good today. But I'm with you guys on Pepio, too. I always like these things, too, where you see, like, it's basically a coin flip game in Tampa. I mean, right now on DraftKings, our partner DraftKings, Skeens is -112. But, I mean, that's a dead coin flip, basically, for 2 pitchers. One's 10-3, one's 7,200. Obviously, Skeens has more upside with the strikeouts and stuff. But when you factor price and everything, matchup, Tampa Bay's offense might even be a tad bit better than Pittsburgh's. I mean, I don't know. I'm with you guys on the Pepio train. And pitching's just loaded, which is always the struggle for me early in the year. Like, I like when it gets hotter. You have some clear offenses. Because even today, as we go through some of these games, I'm with DC where even the top, like, projected offenses, I'm not, like, in love with. So maybe we can get a little creative at offense, because I have to play these pitchers. And, again, like Stats said, I've always played 2 pitchers. I've never even understood really the reason against it. What do you get for a win? 4 or something?
4, yeah.
Like, it's not a big enough, at least for me, a decision factor to – I've won tons of tournaments with pitchers against pitchers, you get the right atmosphere, 1-0 games. I mean, I've never understood the other side to it. Sure, maybe you can't get 2 wins from both pitchers, obviously, but you can still get great atmosphere. So I'm with you guys totally on this game. No bats. I see no reason to play a bat against these pitchers.
Yeah, I think the argument against playing 2 pitchers in the same game is what you said, Big T. It's just that you can't get both wins. So I guess you cap your upside.
Technically, you're 4 points less on
a little bit, but I mean, I say this all the time. I mean, these big tournaments are not won by the pitchers, especially early on in the year. It's the offenses that really get you to the top. You can easily win getting just 1 win from a pitcher. I mean, if you're
– Do you ever remember a slate where you're like, God damn, it was a 1-0 game, but I didn't get 2 wins from my pitch? Yeah. I bet you guys have never said that in the 10+ years we've done this.
No, look at opening day, DC. The guy, like, there was some pretty good pitcher before. What was it? Gore, right? Had like the 30 some up. It wasn't even in the winner in the big GPP. Yeah. The guy, I forget who the pitcher was, had like 8 points, was single-digit points. So you could get away with it if you catch the right bats. You know, you could get away with a few different pitchers.
Yeah, exactly. And what have even been the biggest pitching performances so far? Maybe we've seen a couple 30+ performances on DraftKings, but not many, right? It's just rare.
Mr. King got it done for me last night. He mowed out there.
Yeah.
There hasn't been many.
Well, that opening day it was Wheeler and Gore, and they had the odd start time, 4:00, whatever, and they couldn't see, or 3:00, and you couldn't see. So both of them had like 6 strikeouts apiece through two innings. So it was a little unusual, but yeah, no, there've been a couple, but not too many. Crazy.
Do you take into account stats that like those like mid-afternoon games when you get the shadows halfway into home plate? It seems like the hitters really struggle in those games. But I always, when it comes down to it, I always like, you trust the props and stuff. That
exactly
going to be.
That's
right?
it. Yeah. You don't want to overthink it. The same thing with weather, with wind and stuff like that. People are like, well, the wind's blowing out. I'm like, all right, well, the total's still 8.5. It's not 12. So, let's settle down. Like, everyone knows what the weather is, or at least what the weather is projected to be. We don't know what the actual weather will be.
Certainly the betting market does, right? If there was some inefficiency, it would be corrected in a hurry. So if you're wondering about the wind or the weather or the heat, honestly, the easiest way to find the answer is that gives you a quick reference point. Obviously, strikeouts for pitchers do that too. So that's Pittsburgh and Tampa Bay. We're all on the pitching here. Pepio in particular looks like a good option at 7,200. We'll move on to KC and Milwaukee up next. This one in Milwaukee, so indoors, or at least I believe so. Cole Reagan's pitching for the Royals. Pretty cheap price point for Reagan's here, 8,100. He's a much better pitcher than that price point would indicate. Another pitcher who was, frankly, I would say less than mediocre, honestly, against the Guardians for what you expect from Reagan's. I do expect him to bounce back throughout the season, and could happen today, although kind of a tough matchup here against the Royals, who make a lot of contact, especially in the top half of their lineup. So, again, Reagan's, I do think he's underpriced for his talent level, but I'm not sure where I'm sitting. He's the answer on this particular slate. He'll go up against Freddie Peralta pitching for the Brewers. 8 strikeouts for Peralta over 5 innings against the Yankees in his first start. Obviously, the Yankees have been, fantastic to start the year. So Peralta, one of the few pitchers who has found success against them. Obviously Reagan's facing the Brewers, not the other way around. It's early here. It's early here in Denver. So yeah, Reagan's against the Brewers, Peralta against the Royals. Tough matchup for Peralta. I expected the Brewers to, and I still kind of expect them to have a pretty good offense, but at least so far, it's not been great for the Brewers. I think they have the worst run differential or close to it of any team in baseball here early on. Obviously, faced the Yankees, had a lot to do with that. I didn't find myself stats on either of these pitchers, but I don't think they're the craziest plays in the world. What about you? What are you doing with Reagan's, Peralta, and then talk about the offenses as well, stats?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly not crazy because I think Reagan's is going to be maybe the second highest owned pitcher on the slate or thereabouts. I have him just ahead of Pepio, but again, I always go to the betting markets. That 6.5 is his prop, which it was for Pepia. Now, slightly more juice to the over, but I mean, we're talking about a fairly decent, differential on the price. I don't have it up in front of me, but here he is. Yeah, 8,100. So you've got a 900 savings, right, going down to Pepia. So I kind of like playing, even though my rankings had him have him above Pepio. I would probably suggest going higher Pepio than Reagan's here. But with all that said, I think there's more upside in this game on the Reagan side than there is, I think, on the Peralta side. I've got Peralta a little closer to middle of the pack in this game. His prop total is 5.5, heavily juiced though to the over. So he's almost in the almost to a 6.5. What do you call prop? Just based on the minus 183 or 190, wherever he is in the betting market. So again, you've got two pitchers coming in this one. We've got two team totals sub 4. Again, this first two games. I mean, this is the most games I've seen with team totals under 4, and we just hit all 4 of these teams that we just started talking about are all under that number. So offensively, this is not one of the ones I'm looking to take. I mean, I would say if you are looking for a leverage play, it's not a spot that I'm really comfortable playing. But I would say of the two sides, you could probably, if you're gonna get leverage and you don't like Reagan's, maybe take a little bit of Milwaukee, some Milwaukee stacks in this one, because I do think Reagan's gets maybe a little bit more ownership than deserved.
Yeah, our friends over at Sabre have Reagan's at 30%. Our guy Captain has them at 20%. So yeah, 25, 30%, something like that for Reagan's. Makes sense to me. Would be higher. All these pitchers are going to kind of they're going to seem under-owned just because there's so many good options, right? I think it is part of it. So yeah, Reagan's obviously a solid play there at 8,100. Not saying he isn't. I do prefer the savings with Pepio, and we'll get to a couple other cheap guys that I like too. But no issue with anyone planning to use Reagan's. I don't think I'd use Peralta, but I also don't love the KC bats against him. What about you, Big T? What are you doing with Milwaukee and KC here?
Yeah, more of the same, where always in these spots, I try to find some leverage first and see if it makes sense. But you look at these lineups, and I think both pitchers match up really good against them. I mean, Peralta, who am I really scared of in this lineup? I mean, Bobby Witt, obviously. But a lot of these other guys, it's just a bad lineup. So I don't really want to get leverage from there, kind of like Stats was saying. And then Reagan's, I like the price, but I think he's significantly worse than those top guys, Skeens and Screwball and the top tier. Yeah. I would put him. I probably got him fourth in the stud rankings or whatever. So he's a good option, but I like those other guys more, and I like Pepio way more too in a cheaper range. But man, who am I picking? Look at this Milwaukee lineup. I mean, who do I really want to pick on Cole Reagan's with? It's good leverage though. Like I think Stats said it, where maybe you just take it, and that's what's fun about stacking in baseball. Maybe you just stack up Milwaukee, a bunch of these righties. Maybe they just get it going. But for me, I'm going a different direction. I like these pitchers enough to where I don't want to pick on them. Maybe a one-off like Contreras or Rhys Hoskins, who's good. He's got to be low owned in the 6-hole. 4K, he's got to be low owned. So just leverage for me here, but pitchers, I don't know how much pitchers I'll get though. Just the way the slate sets up where we got cheap options. I love Skeens. I love Screwball. I don't know how much of them I'll get. I'll be under the field on Reagan's for sure. If you guys think he's 30%, there's no way I'm playing that much of Reagan's.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not sure he'll coming quite that high, but it'll be pretty high for Reagan's, I believe.
He's in the 20s. Yeah, he's in the 20s.
I think between 20 and 30% for Reagan's, and I'm with you, T. I think there are better ways to go, especially at that number. And if you are trying to get leverage against Reagan's, which is never a bad idea against a highly owned pitcher, yeah, someone said it. Hoskins makes sense. Churio, he hasn't done much yet, but he would be number 2. And then some of the cheaper guys, maybe Capper or Jory Ortiz at the bottom. But I wouldn't go crazy with the Brewers. Maybe try to pick out a home run. But I think the full stack against Reagan's is going a little bit too far on this slate, personally. Sounds like sad.
Yeah, you could do it. You could get a 2-man stack in there or something like that. or the one off with a Contreras, something like that.
I do like the little mini stack you guys, because some of these scrub guys are cheap too. That like Isaac Collins is in the three hole for 2,300. I mean, when you're building a stud like Skeens lineup, you need a little savings. Like you can play Contreras and Collins or something. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, Collins last year had 14 steals, 14 home runs and 24 steals in AAA. So, and they're hitting him third, right? That's always kind of an indication too that the team has some faith. He's also a switch hitter, so should be safe from pinch hitting here. Looks like a pretty good young player, or he's not that young, but a decent hitter at least, Isaac Collins. So if you do need some savings in the 3-hole, maybe he's the way, right? You take the super cheap guy, and you don't need as much, obviously, from that type of price point. So
I don't think you ever hurt yourself just play. And granted, sometimes it helps me not knowing as much about some of the players. If I see a guy in the 3-hole with a leverage spot and 2,300, like it just is what it is. Like I'm gonna play him.
I got to throw this in there because I haven't really analyzed my sheet yet. I'm like looking at the boom rankings, and it's Kansas City is actually the highest total 5-man stack in boom. Yeah, I got to double check it with Witt, Perez, Renfroe, India, and Vinny P. So
leverage city, it's baseball.
I know. Now I'm like, man, now I got to get a little bit in there, man, because we've had some decent winners. Yeah, my buddy had the biggest win he's had in his life in MLB, and using the boom ratings. What was it, San Francisco stack on Sunday or something like that? I think it was Sunday.
Stats, I'm sure you'll agree with this. Baseball is one of those, maybe the only sport where if the numbers turn enough, right? If the ownership numbers turn enough, then like any stack, any pitcher can kind of be in play just because of the nature of the sport. Whereas like NBA is not like that, right? It doesn't matter how low you get in ownership, it's not a good play. So
it's the only sport where you'll see the entire like 8 players on a let's take the pitchers aside, out of it. Yeah. Like eight players will be like single digit ownership. Like his lineup was Judge at like whatever ownership, and everyone else was single digits.
Yeah, you love to see it. That's KC Milwaukee. I promise we'll eventually get to some bats that we like here. I don't know if it'll be in this game necessarily, though. St. Louis and the Angels are up next. It is going to be warmer in St. Louis today. Looks like the low to mid 70s, some humidity, and some really strong winds blowing out to left field. However, it does look like rain is going to arrive in this game, maybe beforehand, maybe during. Potential weather risk. I think most likely is they have a delay at some point and then play the rest of the game after the storms pass. But you never know for sure, especially early on in the season. Plenty of all season to make up a game that you postpone. So it's risky here. 10-game slate stats. I don't think I love anything enough in this game to risk it on the weather. But obviously, we do have a decent amount of time before we have to decide, almost 2 hours before this game does start. So we're going to be monitoring that. Members, of course, in the Discord will be, keeping a close eye on the weather and making a final decision. Pitching-wise, we've got Sonny Gray, who pitched pretty well against the Twins on opening day. I had some question marks about him. Looked a little shaky in spring, was kind of sick, but he looked like his normal self against the Twins. Gets a good matchup here, of course, against the Angels, who they've got a few good hitters at the top of the lineup led by Mike Trout, but overall a lineup to attack with pitching, no doubt about it. And then Kikuchi going for the Angels, had 5 strikeouts against the White Sox on opening day. Again, pitching risk here, or really risk for everybody with the weather. I don't think I'm getting to either of these pitchers. Again, they'd be the ones that would be most affected by a delay in the 3rd or 4th inning, which I think is possible. And I don't know. I always say if you're going to go to hitting in a risky weather game, I kind of like just going all in with a 5-man stack, because you're probably not going to get there if the game's postponed in the 6th or 7th inning or whatever. You need those extra innings. So that would be my approach here. Ultimately, on my 3 teams, I don't know if I'm going to get to anything from this game. Probably just take the safe route and go a different direction. What about you, Stats? Have you taken a look at the weather? And if so, are you willing to risk it on this Angels and Cardinals game?
Yeah, I don't have an opinion on the weather. We just got an update actually in our Discord. Someone said there's tornado warnings as well going on in St. Louis. So who knows? I mean, one of those pop up anywhere near the stadium. I mean, that could postpone it. So we're gonna have to keep a close eye on it. And it sucks because for me, I think St. Louis is a really good stack here today. And if you look again, I'll keep touting the boom sheet, but it's got them as one of the highest boom scores as far as any stacks. And then if you look at the value, guys like Baker and Walker that you mix in there, and middle of the lineup, I think this, and you look at the team total, I think this plays out to be one of the better stacks, especially if you're going to play a 10-3 Skeens tonight. So, or this afternoon. I think we're going to have to take a real hard look at the weather on this one. I think it's the scariest game with that, and the White Sox even on this one. I know the White Sox have an issue here today as well, but yeah, I'm gonna have to look at that one when we get off the show and monitor it closely. So, but if this game plays, let's just assume I'm confident that the game plays. I agree with you as far as the weather goes. Like if I'm going in, I just go, I'm gonna push it as I normally would. I don't just say, well, I was gonna take 15% St. Louis stacks, and now I'll just play 5%. Like either you play them or you don't play them. I think that's kind of the way to go here. But I'm really high on St. Louis today. If you want to play some of the higher priced pitchers, or if you just want to add in, like you said, you want to sprinkle in some of these big bats in the lineup, I think you can get away with that here, playing a St. Louis 5-man stack and then 2- and 3-man stacks, or even one-offs with some of the higher priced bats that you could get in there today.
Yeah, I like that call. I was looking at St. Louis too. Obviously, we're gonna have to make follow this up to lock, right, and make ultimately a call as we get closer to the start of the game. But I do like St. Louis with you if the game looks safe to play. A couple guys I've been on early lefty matchups here, but Nootbaar, Victor Scott continue to get the job done night after night. And Kikuchi actually had a little bit of reverse splits last year where he wasn't super great against lefties. So I do think both those guys are interesting plays if you feel safe, or if we feel safe playing St. Louis. What about you, Big T? What are you doing with Cardinals and Angels here?
I was going to ask this dude too. So he said, Big T, can you do a demo build for us? What do you mean demo build? I can do whatever, but what do you mean? Like talk about a full build? Let me know what you mean. But this game, the one thing I do in baseball that I don't think everyone does, if it's like a big slate like this and I don't just absolutely love the game and there's weather, I just ignore it. So I get both directions. But I like St. Louis. I'm not disagreeing with you guys. Like I love the pricing. I love when they face a lefty that can get beat up at times. Even though Kikuchi's good, when he gets beat up, he does get hit pretty hard. I like the lineup. I like what DC said. Victor Scott came through for us the other day. Nootbaar's had some big games. 2,300 for Baker. Everything checks out, but it's just not a spot that I want to sweat the rain with. You got, like you said in the Discord, they're talking about the freaking tornadoes or whatever they're talking about in there. I just don't need to do it with this game. Two solid pitchers too. I mean, Sonny Gray's solid. Kikuchi, even though there was some like outliers I read about with Sonny Gray where maybe he's got a few issues going on, but I just don't need to mess with this game. So to be honest, I'm just ignoring it all the way around.
Yeah, it makes sense. That's honestly kind of my plan too, but obviously subject to change based on the weather.
If we somehow get news like it's good to go, then I would just totally revert back and just because the boom rating, I'm using that too. Like some of these numbers for especially one-offs and different things. If it checks, it makes sense. So if we somehow get news that it's for sure safe, I would definitely have interest in it.
Yeah,
there's just no worse feeling than when you have like a full stack and you just see it get wiped and you're like, there's nothing worse than that. I hate that feeling.
Maybe the worst sweat in DFS is when you got like
the weather sweat.
Yeah, it's terrible. Like when you're just totally dead when it just gets wiped. It's just I hate that feeling.
And you usually have to wait like 3 hours, right? Because it's like delayed forever, and you're like, please start the game, especially if the other players go off.
And then when it starts after you wait that long, sometimes it's 1-0 anyways. And you're like, I freaking just sweated the thing out for 4 hours to get one run.
I will say though, if you do risk it and you get your early players to go off and like the game's delayed for 4 hours and you're the only one left because like all the other games are over, and you get your 5-man stack going, and nobody else has any players. Fun way to try to chase down a GPP. But again, obviously we're gonna have to wait on the weather. We'll be monitoring up to lock, and you'll get both these teams and pitchers lower owned than you otherwise would have if the game does look safe to play. So something to keep in mind. Again, we just can't answer that question right now. Got to monitor it up to lock, which we will do, of course, and have final recommendations in the Run Pure Sports Discord. But for now, it sounds like me and Big T are leaning, playing it safe, maybe stats, perhaps a little bit more willing to risk it than Tony and I. Let's get to the other weather game. It is in Chicago. Perhaps even riskier here with the White Sox and Twins. Miserable weather it looks like in Chicago right now, which is going to continue for the next at least hour or two. I think this game is pretty likely, honestly, to start in delay, but perhaps they're able to play it in the afternoon. If they are, it's going to be prime pitching conditions. It's going to be cold and wet, and looks like wind blowing in Chicago for Twins and White Sox. Two bad offenses anyway. And then pitching wise, we've got Pablo Lopez going for the Twins. He was disappointing opening day against the Cardinals. And then Sean Burke, who seems like a long time ago now, but back on opening day, everybody was on the Angels against Sean Burke, who I think that was a pretty good hitting weather game as well. Didn't work out. He shut him down for 6 innings. Actually, looking at some of the stuff plus, the pitch grade types, actually graded out better than I would have expected. So maybe comes crashing back to earth here, stats. But if this game looks like it's going to play, if it starts on time, I kind of like Sean Burke a little bit at 6,200. I know the props don't love him, so I might be on an island with Mr. Burke. But against this Twins team, I don't think it's a crazy play at super cheap and super low ownership. So curious where you're at on Sean Burke. Pablo Lopez, 8,500. I think he's in consideration against this White Sox team. He's got to be good pitcher and a good matchup in good weather. But again, this is one we're going to have to monitor. Don't have the answer right now if this game is safe to play, but it would be the pitching here stats that I'd be going to, assuming it does look reasonably safe. Stats, what are you doing with Twins and White Sox?
I like half the pitching. I like Lopez here. Not high on Burke. Yeah, the props again, you've got a 6.5 total K prop here for Lopez. Burke's down at 5.5, but juiced heavy to the under. The team totals on this one, we've got Minnesota's at the third bet, their third highest team total, right behind St. Louis, which we just talked about. So I actually like the Minnesota stacks, and I like Lopez. So I'm full. Let's just assume the game plays. I'm going to be heavily on the Minnesota side of this one, pitching wise, and the stacks. You're getting, you've got some decent prices here on the stacks that you can put together for the Twins. I think they'll be, they're going to be relative. I don't know what's going to be. I don't know what we consider high owned. But I think you're going to get some decent leverage, especially if there's weather concerns on Twin stacks here. So it's a lot like St. Louis. I think I have a little bit more confidence in this game going than the St. Louis one, but I like stacks in this game. When you got a $3,700 4-hitter, you could, if you want to get down to the catcher at 2,300, but Ty France batting 5th at 3,100. So we've got some savings here. You've got Castro bats 6th, and he's at 3,500. So I like these stacks as well. Very similar to St. Louis for me. I will, assuming this game plays, I'm going to have quite a bit of Minnesota and Lopez.
All right, Stats has volunteered to pay the rake today with Twin stacks. Big T, you getting to the Twins today?
The Twins have cost me so much money. God, they have. But again, it's a weather game. I don't love it that much to begin with. So my take is just the same as the other one. I'm just not playing it. So I totally get it. It's all risk tolerance for people too. How many teams they play, how much they like the spot. I just don't love the spot anyways. The Twins have just freaking killed. If I did play it though, I would be on the Twins lefties, which Wallner, Larnack. Man, Ty France is so bad. Who was I? I used to argue with Boynton all the time. Boynton loved this guy, and now Boynton, a lot of crickets lately. This dude sucks. But, I don't know. They don't have that many lefties. Yeah, I don't like this game. Even if it plays, I don't like this game.
Yeah,
I actually like Burke. If it was perfect weather, I like Burke versus.
Yeah, join me on the Burke train, Big T.
I can't do it with the weather, but I do like. I like it better than Minnesota. They have killed me.
Yeah, Boynton foolishly decided to hitch his wagon to Ty France. I'm not sure.
He was like going off about it too, like MVP candidate and stuff. Like he loved him some Ty France.
Now he's like a $2,500 8-hitter for the Twins. That's unplayable. So yeah, Boynton probably not watching right now, but there you go.
Boynton's definitely not watching. We'd have him tilted though.
I mean, again, I'm not a huge France guy, but the potential for home runs at that price is pretty good. So
has he ever hit a home run in his life?
He has hit home runs.
How many does he have? Seriously though, he can't be a power hitter.
This is good. You got to love the Boynton 3 a.m. chats. That
when he gets it going at 3 a.m., him and JBC have when you see the message pop up from him and it's like 2 a.m., you just know there's not.
You gotta see the
good coming your way.
You got to see the message when it initially is posted though, because there's a good chance it's going to be gone when you wake up in the morning. You gotta catch it early with the.
I didn't write that in there, did I? Oh, I gotta delete that.
Been there a few times myself, so totally get it with the late night Discord.
Where's our boy Ty France in the boom rating? Don't tell me he pops in there or something.
He's fucking booming. That's where he is.
Is he up top? Seriously?
No, he's high. He's in the high level though, because of the potential for the home runs.
I see. Well, how many home runs does this dude have? He can't have many. I gotta look it up.
All right.
I don't know. I love the boom rating. I don't know what it's seeing with Ty France.
It's seeing the home runs, but I never thought I'd wake up today defending Ty France. But, but here we are.
Here we are.
He does got 74 in his career.
Right,
I don't know how long he's played. He's played however many years before, though.
I absolutely would have taken the under on 74.
I would have too. 74 is a decent amount.
He averages 17 for 162 games. So I mean, it's not
Boynton might be making a comeback. The boom rating. Boynton's coming for him.
All those home runs must have come when Boynton was in love with this dude, because I swear he hasn't done a lot since then. But
Boynton's really good. He picks the right days that he's going to hit the home run. That's the thing.
That is an important thing to do. I saw someone else in chat saying that picking the right stacks seems key today, which
that is a good point. That's valid. You do need to pick the correct stacks.
It's tough to win. It's tough to win when your stacks don't score.
Yes, I would agree with that.
You got like the Cubbies scoring 16. It's tough to win if you don't got the Cubbies when they're out there putting them up.
100%. We got an hour jump between Minnesota, Chicago to the next game on the slate. It is the Nationals and the Blue Jays. This one in Toronto, so we should have indoor game, or at least good weather for the game in Rogers Center. Mackenzie Gore going for the Nationals was probably the biggest overall surprise on opening day. Absolutely shoved against the Phillies. What do you have? 13 strikeouts for Mackenzie Gore, a guy that we've played a lot of at RPS over the years. Some big games out of him and some big blow-ups. That's just kind of the pitcher he's been. The talent, though, has always been there. So good to see Gore perform well in the opening start. Did show a new pitch, a sweeper that he threw, or I believe the slider changed actually is what it was for Gore. But anyway, obviously results were there against a good Phillies lineup. Gets a matchup here against a very contact-oriented Blue Jays team. So, unless Gore really has something new here, I would think the strikeouts would probably come back to earth in this one, but he is cheap. 7,600 for a pitcher who just put up 13 strikeouts. I think you got to at least take a look at him. I don't think I'm going to get to Gore today, but again, I think there are crazier plays for sure. And then Easton Lucas going to start for the Blue Jays. I believe his first MLB start of his career, mostly been a kind of a bullpen long man type of pitcher. He is 4K. So, if you really want the savings, I guess maybe you could use him. I don't think I'm going to use Mr. Lucas myself. And then bats, I think are interesting. Curious where the Blue Jays came out in the boom rating stats. I could see them, again, Gore gives up a lot of hard contact when he's not on his game, and it's just been one start. So kind of on the fence on what to do with the Blue Jays against Gore. We'll throw it to you, Stats. What are you doing with Blue Jays and Nationals here?
Yeah, I mean, as far as what the hell's his name? That's the first time I remember hearing this guy was this morning, Easton Lucas. Is he at all a prospect or anything? I don't know anything about him.
No.
But yeah, I mean, I'm looking at his props and everything. I mean, I had absolutely no interest.
Yeah.
Gore was 5.5 in the betting market on his K prop, and I think that was, let me bring it up. I think that was juice. Yeah, it was pretty even juice. So right around 5.5. I mean, the price isn't bad. I don't expect a ton of ownership on him, despite his last outing being pretty good with the pitchers that we have on the slate. It was better than pretty good, but with the pitchers we have here, I don't know if I'm going to get down to Gore either in the matchup. So for me, I think we're looking at the bats. Obviously, you have to lean more towards the Toronto side. Let's see if we got any of the Toronto play. I mean, Vlad is up there decently. You've got Schneider at 2,400 is pretty good for the price. I haven't looked at the lineup. I might be talking about guys who aren't even in there. Is he in there?
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of looking at what we did a little while ago. I think you can play some Toronto stacks for sure against this pitcher. I think people will. I think they're going to have. I think there'll be some. Actually, yeah. I mean, Saber doesn't have it as high as I thought. I would have some ownership. I would think the ownership would be a little higher. I think if Saber's right, I think you can get a little leverage here with Toronto. What do they have on Washington? So they actually have. I'm sorry, did I say Toronto? Yeah, I've got it totally backed up. Yeah, we want to go against Toronto here, so that makes more sense. Yeah, Washington with that ownership looks to make a little bit more sense to me. With they're looking at them as higher ownership than like even St. Louis and Minnesota. So from that standpoint, then I want to be under Washington here. I think 5 to 7% stacks on Washington, Toronto. Even less than that if you want to play it. I don't think that's out of the question to play Toronto stacks either. But both pitchers probably don't make the cut for me on this one.
I'm with you. I'm off the pitchers here. Gore would be the one that I'd be more willing to use. But yeah, the stacks are interesting. I used Nationals yesterday. Abrams came through. They were kind of mediocre overall, though. Big T, what about you? What are you doing? Nationals and Blue Jays?
Yeah, so I'm definitely not off of Mackenzie Gore just because I put too much emphasis. I mean, if I see a guy go against Philly, 13 Ks, 93 pitches, brought in a new pitch that you guys were talking about that I read about a little bit on Twitter too, that I just have to take notice. I'm not saying he's going to be my first guy in, but we see this every year where some guys just take the next step, and he's always been super talented.
Yeah.
I don't love the matchup. I actually like this Toronto lineup a decent amount. How it sets up. They don't really have any just layups in the lineup. Some of their new guys actually profile pretty nice. I like the price point of Schneider and Clement and some of these guys at the bottom. So it's definitely a spot where I want to go both ways. I want some Mackenzie Gore. I think I like Mackenzie Gore right below Pepio, where I like them a lot, though. I think that you could even use one with both of them to get bigger bats or something. But I also like both these offenses. It's the first game where I feel like I like both teams a decent amount. My only issue is I think Toronto profiles better against Gore than Washington does against Lucas. But who knows how long Lucas will be in there. Like, I usually like Washington much better against righties just because a lot of their better guys are lefties. So it just makes sense in my head for that. But I like both teams. I think we could see runs here. And like you guys mentioned a few times, there's not a ton of offense on this slate. There's a lot of really good pitchers. It's just you got to find some spots to go after. And I think this is a game where I can definitely get after it. And I'm curious how long Easton Lucas will go.
His prop
is
prop is 11.5 outs.
So we're thinking, yeah, I mean, 4 innings or so somewhere in there. Yeah, I mean, I like both teams. I'm in on this game, and I do like Gore, so I like a lot about this game.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. To me, Gore is really easy to steal bases against. I wish the Blue Jays had some speed, but just not a lot of, or at least the guys that you want, not going to be active on the base paths for the most part. So has me a little bit lower on the Blue Jays, but I wouldn't be surprised if they came to life here against Gore. And honestly, like you said, Big T, I mean, 13 strikeouts against the Phillies, second start of the year. Could be something there for Mackenzie Gore. So I don't think he's a crazy play, especially, I mean, he's not expensive, right? 70, 75, 7,600. I mean, you can do worse there. So
I just always lean into it early. Like sometimes it takes people a while to adjust. And I'm not saying he won't come out and get blistered today. That could happen too. And then we just readjust. But if I see someone that was already talented and they looked incredible against a pretty good offense, I have to lean into it a little bit, especially at this price.
Yep, totally agree with you. I think Gore, very reasonable play, all things considered. Second half of the slate here, got to keep it moving. Chicago Cubs, Oakland Athletics, A's. Sorry, Big T. I won't call them the Athletics. I know that irks you. The Oakland A's will go with Jeffrey Springs here, who he was awesome. Opening start against the Mariners. Yeah, what do you have? 9 Ks and 6 shutout innings. Of course. That's the Mariners team that we're gonna target often in Seattle. High strikeout team gets the Cubs here, who much tougher matchup, make a lot of contact, and they've been awesome to start the year. Kyle Tucker is homered in 4 straight games, I believe. This looks like a dangerous team right now. Stats do the Cubs. Curious where you ended up against them, against Springs, and then on the other side, Jameson Taillon, longtime veteran. We know what to expect from him. He really hasn't changed much as a pitcher, it seems like, ever. So you do know exactly what type of pitcher he is. This one, of course, will not be played in Oakland. It'll be in Sacramento at the minor league stadium. Better place to hit. Not the best place to hit, but a better place than the Coliseum for sure. And yeah, I kind of like the daytime A's. Been a RPS, I think, a little bit of a joke, but something to it. Have performed better at home or during the day at home. And I think that could continue here in Sacramento. So I do like them a little bit against Taillon, who I think is one of the worst pitchers going on this particular slate. I can't play Springs against the Cubs, but I don't think I'm getting to the Cubs here either. We'll throw it to you, Stats. What are you doing, Cubs and A's here?
Yeah, so from a pitching standpoint, I don't like either one of these pitchers. So I've got both rated really low. And then you look at the team totals. This is one of the best team totals on or one of the best totals for a game. And then when you break it up by team, both are like the Cubs are T3 in team total, and right below them are the Athletics. So we kind of one of the games that we're looking for a little bit of offense in. I think both teams are in play. When you look to the Cubs side and we go down the boom rating here, they come out 7th in 5-man stacks. They're the 7th best on this slate. It's where they kill you is on the value, right? So you're going to pay up for guys like, those big boom guys on the sheet. You're going to be paying up for them, but we do have some options here at pitcher where you can save some money. So I think the Cubs for sure are in play. I think you can get to Oakland as I'm going to say Oakland for God knows how long, but the Athletics as well. But where do I have? I've got the Athletics are like middle of the road as far as boom, but they're better than the Cubs as far as value. You're going to get a lot cheaper stacks here with the Athletics. I think both sides are in play. I think you could easily see this game being at least one side, if not both, go off and win some money here for some people. So I think you could stack this game. You could stack the game because you could kind of fit in Chicago with the Athletics.
Yeah, I do like the game stack here for sure. Just this Cubs team, I mean, they need to be looked at every slate right now, given how they're hitting the ball. Been on the winners a couple times already. They've got speed, power, cheap players with power at the bottom and at the lineup. So I do think the Cubs make some sense. Carson Kelly, a hero for our guy Schlong the other night, 2,600. Should be in the 9-hole today. I think he's interesting against Springs. Big T, we'll throw it over to you. What are you doing, Cubs and A's?
Yeah, another game that I like. And these parks that we don't know a ton about, I think we can take – we've talked a lot in the Discord about it, but I think we can take advantage early where people might not know that this park is a decent amount better. Well, not more than a decent amount better. I mean, they were playing in the worst possible park last year.
Yeah.
That park was terrible. So – And they're a younger team that has a bunch of guys that can take a little bit of a leap this year too for the A's. So I think it makes a ton of sense, and I like both sides of this. But Tyon, I've always loved taking lefties against them, and the A's have guys that just check that profile big time. Lawrence Butler, Bleday. I love JJ Bleday today. Soderstrom, JSU's boy, was another lefty. So I just think it makes a ton of sense to pick on Tyon with those guys, at least a mini stack. I wish they had more lefties now, but we don't have the official lineup. But good news is that the few that I like, I really like. And then the Cubs just continue to show upside. Kyle Tucker, I was going to say Justin Tucker. Kyle Tucker has just been amazing. I mean, just crushing it in this start to the season. So I like both lineups. I even think you could use Springs a little bit. Like, he looked good to me in that first start. I don't love it against the Cubs because I do think that especially the top of the lineup for the Cubs looks very good. But Springs looks good too. And the A's, for whatever reason, always they get these guys that I feel like pitch above their head a little bit and pitch well. So it's another game where I want to lean into the offense more from the A's side. But I can also play Springs. I can also play some Cubs. JJ Bleday is one of my favorite plays of the day, though. I think he profiles awesome, and he's only 3,600, which is a nice price break on this slate.
Yeah, absolutely. I like the A's quite a bit here. All three of us on them, and Gangsta Charles had to be put in timeout. You can't come in here. We've never seen you before. You got 3 insults for us as we're trying to talk ball early on Wednesday morning. So Charles,
what was he even talking about? I don't even know what he was even saying.
He was insulting us for talking the main slate too early. He said it's too early to talk baseball. So Charles,
did he not realize that it starts in the afternoon?
I don't know.
I'm hoping we finish before the slate starts.
Yeah. We're trying. Right. And I'll take the hint there, Stats, and move it along.
No. I didn't mean it like that.
I scooted us up an hour to try to get us a little clearance. We might have needed 2 hours.
Yeah, Big T with the call there. San Francisco and Houston up next. This one in Houston, it is Framber Valdez looked awesome his first start, and Landon Roop going for the Giants. Valdez, I think he's an okay play here. I almost never take hitters against him. Stats, just a ground ball master, really hard to get home runs against, doesn't give up rallies, that type of thing. So I'm off the Giants here. It would be the Astros that I'd be more interested in, but man, this offense has not performed well so far. Roop, I think, is an okay pitcher. Curious where you ended up, Stats, with Giants and Astros.
Yeah, so I mean, from the pitcher standpoint, I don't really love either one of these pitchers. Not going to with so much quality pitching out there. I'm not going to find my way to these guys. 5.5 is the K prop here for Valdez at juice to the over -131. Roop at 4.5, juice to the under. So nothing particularly too exciting about either one of those guys. But yeah, so we look at the stacks. Where do we have them ranked? Yeah, San Francisco doesn't rank all that well, and Houston is one of the better stacks. So Houston's projecting out to be one of the top 5 or 6 stacks for me if you just disregard price. So and San Francisco, when you take price into account, becomes one of the 5 or 6 best stacks. We've got on the team total on this one. Where's the team totals? I got so much shit open, but yeah. So Houston 4.08. San Francisco down at 3.61. So nothing to get too excited about there. Yeah, my stacks in this game are probably going to be leaning on the Houston side a little bit more than San Francisco. Looking at the ownership, doesn't look like we're getting a ton of ownership on either side of this game. I think getting over the market actually on Houston in a pretty decent ballpark there to hit might be the play. I like the Houston side of this one. Definitely going to sprinkle in some San Fran, but I think getting yourself up to maybe 8 to 12% stacks on Houston's the way to go in this on this game.
Yeah, it makes sense. Big T utilizing the ban button there. I believe that was you.
Our guy bounced back under a different name.
Yeah, I think there's like a 90% chance that was the same guy under a different
It had
name.
to be high. It had to be 100% chance. There's no way two donkeys act like we're talking about the 7 p.m. slate when it's not. I don't even know what he's talking about. And then he starts, whatever he's freaking.
Charles might be into the drink early here on Wednesday. It kind of seems like it. We'll see if he makes a third attempt at
appearance.
The troll.
I kind of hope he does. Honestly, it'd be impressive to come back three different
days.
Place
bets, people. I think it's about even odds if Charles makes a third attempt. Big T, Giants and Houston. What do you got for us here?
Yeah, Framber's the type of guy that I never really pick on, but I also never really play. He's a good real life pitcher. Doesn't really get hit that hard most of the time, but he never shows, especially on slates like this where we have a ton of upside. I just don't see a reason to play Framber in these spots. I do see a reason to play my boy Wilmer, though. He's been pretty good to start the year. 3,100. I always like him versus lefties. Granted, Framber's not a normal lefty, and I don't like it as much as I normally do. But Wilmer's actually looked pretty good to me early in the year, and I have to play him at least a little bit against a lefty and 3,100. And don't be surprised if he scoots up a little in the lineup, too. Actually, now that I'm looking at the lineup, he's not scooting up. There's too many horses at the top, so he'll probably be 5-hole or something. So, but I like that. And then Houston. I mean, Houston started the year slow. I don't love how they've looked, but this is a good matchup on a slate without much offense. And there's just not a ton of spots you're going to like, even though it's a bigger slate. So I'm in on Houston. Not my favorite stack, but one of my top ones. And guys like Christian Walker, Diaz, Pena, I mean, they're going to start hitting at some point. So I'm in.
All right, last three games to talk about. Cleveland and San Diego up next. Another kind of cool day in San Diego. We've got Dylan Cease going for the Padres. Obviously, strong strikeout pitcher. I think a reasonable play here against the Guardians. And then Ben Lively going for the Guardians, who, in my eyes at least, stats pitched way over his head last year in terms of the results. I never was a believer in him, and frankly, am not this year either. I think the regression monster coming hard for Ben Lively. Hopefully today, because I like this Padres stack quite a bit. Just signed Jackson Merrill to the long-term deal. So if you think there's some narrative street there, maybe you give Merrill a little bump. But yeah, Lively, I think, is a pitcher to target against. And despite not the best park in the world, I do like the Padres quite a bit here against Lively. Stats, what do you see, Guardians and Padres?
Yeah, you pretty much nailed it. What I was going to say there, I like that. I like the Padres as well, but I hate targeting teams in that ballpark. Like the boomerang has both of these teams decent, good value, but you look at the Cease. He's not going to get owned here. I mean, just looking at with his price, I think he's the second highest tag on the price tag on the entire slate. I think you can get a little bit of leverage with Cease in this park. I don't have him particularly, ranked all that high, but I think if we're playing the game here, I would get over on Dylan Cease and differentiate myself. I think there's a ton of value stacks. I mean, if you had a Cease with Skeen's line, I don't think it's going to be as popular. Skeen's obviously is popular, but I think that this taking the two highest priced guys here and going with some of these lesser owned stacks, I think gets you unique. Not that you have to go crazy with getting unique in MLB, but I think I'm going to get over the market on Cease. Lively, I just have no interest in at all. So I think as far as the stacks go, I mean, with that said, I'm going to kind of steer away from Cleveland stacks, and I think I don't want to get too crazy with the San Diego stacks. I don't like to go nuts here in that ballpark. They do project out well, but I think if you're at the market, which is going to be in the kind of 5%, 6% stacks of San Diego, may even be less than that. I think you're okay, and I'll just avoid the Cleveland stacks, I think, in this one.
Yeah, Cease looks like he's going to be, I don't know, maybe around 10% owned, maybe less than that, which in this park, I think makes him a pretty strong play, even at 9,300. Big T, what about you? What are you doing, Cleveland, San Diego here?
Yeah, I love Cease. Cease checks a ton of boxes for me. I think Cleveland, we're used to them having like a ton of contact too.
Yeah. It's
I
changed.
think they're going to take a big step backwards this year. So, I mean, I do think their lineup looks similar on the surface, but I think they're going to regress a decent amount. And I love Cease. Cease always gives you upside, which we want in tournaments. Yeah, he gets hit at times too, but he gives us upside. And I think San Diego might just be a little bit of a wagon this year. They look really good to me. And I know people think they're good, but I don't think people realize that they could just be like the best team outside of the Dodgers, where they just kind of battle all year. They're loaded. I mean, their lineup is absolutely loaded. So I want a piece of them. And even though it's a bad park, I do like this park more during the day than at night, where the ball – it might not be a ton better, and it might just be psychological, one of those things that I just think in my head that isn't actually correct. But it's how I look at it. I like it better during the day. Same with like Oakland before. I always liked them better during the day. Maybe it doesn't mean anything. Maybe it does. Whatever. It's part of the fun and having taste.
No, but it's like we said earlier, though, T. It's like you look at the betting markets. I mean, they're one of the highest team totals on the slate. So I mean, you can't deny that.
I like San Diego. And, took a week, but the first I'll make the first marine layer reference on this show. It doesn't come in until the night. So you got that's what the kind of the theory behind the daytime is, I assume. So would I assume apply to San Diego as well. Again, not a weatherman. You have to check in.
And like Tatis too. Like Tatis might low key be as good as like anybody, like Judge, Shohei. Like he started just amazing. So I kind of want to hitch my wagon a little to the Padres early in the year and just keep shoveling them in there every slate.
I'm with you. I like San Diego quite a bit on this slate, and they're expensive. Another reason why I'm probably going to go to some cheaper pitching to get in these expensive bats, which you just can't get to them if you don't go cheaper pitching. So I do think it's a fun
Padres got Martin Maldonado. This dude's still out there kicking. I was just talking about how good their lineup is, and Maldonado's on them.
Yeah, I won't be going to Mr. Maldonado, but give me the studs: Machado, Tatis, Jackson Merrill. I think they could be in for a good day here against Lively, who I have no faith in whatsoever as a pitcher. Last two games to talk about. Hit the like button if you're watching. We got a big crowd here on Wednesday morning. Got the Masters coming up, MMA, NBA playoffs, baseball. We got so much baseball content out there for you guys. If you do want to join us over at Run Pure Sports, you can use promo code RPS15. We'll get you 15% off your first payment. Great time to join the winner circle over at Run Pure Sports. Again, hit the like button if you haven't yet done so and you're enjoying the show, unlike Gangster Charles, who is in timeout. Detroit and Seattle, last of these two games. Obviously, great pitchers park here. I go to a lot of pitchers in Seattle. That'll be the case again today. I like both these guys. Tarek Skubal, obviously one of the top arms in all baseball. He'll go up against the Mariners team that we like to pick on. Casey Mize had a big game against them yesterday. If Mize can do it, certainly Skubal can as well. And then Luis Castillo on the other side, going up against a pretty strikeout-happy Tigers lineup. I think we should see a pitcher's duel in this one. Would be surprised if it's anything else. These pitchers are expensive, and I think they'll get some ownership as well, but I still think they're worth considering. Stats, over to you. What do you see, Mariners and Tigers here?
Yeah, as I said, I thought Cease was the second highest. It's actually Skubal at 10K, second highest price tag on the slate. And, yeah, he's going to get on. He'll be top three, probably one of the top three owned pitchers on this slate. He's got the highest K prop out there, 7.5. It is juiced to the under, but still 7.5 K prop, I believe, is the best one. And Castillo, not too bad either. 6.5 is his K prop. He's juiced to the under as well, minus 134 on the under. So I mean, you've listened, DC. I can't tell how many Fridays where I'm like, man, whoever was the road team in Seattle that I liked. And every time DC was like, yeah, don't do it.
Never works.
It took me about 5 times. And then I said, all right, I'm done. Yeah, playing these stacks in Seattle. Sometimes they look, and this one doesn't even look good. So I think you kind of passing on both offenses here. There's nothing to see. And like you said, both pitchers are in play. Skubal, I've got him actually ranked. I've got Skubal ranked lower than where he's going to come out in the ownership. So I'm going to go under the market here. I think my leverage play is just going to be like kind of flipping Cease and Skubal in the ownership. I think that's where I'm going to be.
Yeah, I don't actually think I'm going to end up on Scooble, but I'm already kicking myself for not playing Scooble in freaking Seattle, and puts up, a 40-piece. Wouldn't surprise me at all. What Big T? What are you doing here? Scooble, Castillo in Seattle.
Yeah, more of the same of what you guys were saying. I never. This might be the topper of all the parks too. Seattle.
I think so. Yeah.
I mean, you just get nothing for forever. You've got nothing from this park, and on top of it, there is a decent amount of good pitching that goes through there. Today, you got two top pitchers. There's no reason to go to offense in this game whatsoever, outside of just 1% leverage type thing. But you just don't need it. And I like Scooble a decent amount. I haven't played around with full builds yet, but I do think playing 2 spend ups is going to be super contrarian, just the way the slate sets up. So even though they're 2 of the highest owned, I think almost everyone's going to play one of those cheaper guys with one of the studs. So if you do play like a Skeen Screwball, which I've always liked these builds, I like the 2 cheap builds and the 2 spend up builds where it just gets you different. And you got to play some dusty bats, but we don't love the bats anyway. So what if both my pitchers get 30 and I just find there's plenty of cheap bats we talked about that you can sprinkle around. I do always tend to lean towards 2 stud pit or C2 I'd put in that bucket, but 2 of those 3 just going off, and then just make the bats work. Find a cheaper stack. Use the boom rating on the site to see who's got the cheap stack that you can kind of get in on. So I'm super high on Screwball. He wasn't great opening day either. I think he bounces back in a big way versus the Seattle team.
Yeah, his stuff actually graded out better in that opening start than it did last year. So Screwball should be good to go.
I heard his velocity was up too. If that's true.
He's going to be in for another very strong season, assuming he can stay healthy and gets the Mariners in Seattle. So yeah, Screwball, very strong play. Castillo I like as well. Let's get to the last game of the slate. It is the Mets and Marlins in Miami. I believe the roof should be closed for this one. Going to be hot and humid. Connor Gillespie going for the Marlins was okay in his first start. I'm expecting something different here because I really, really like this Mets team. They're expensive, but I think they're going to pound Gillespie and this bad bullpen. And I've watched a bunch of these Marlins games, and there's been plenty of power shown in Miami. I know it is a pitcher's park, but yeah, we've seen the ball sailing over the fence plenty of times early on this season. And no Mets lineup yet, which should even hold their ownership down a little bit further. But I'm kind of on just the top 5 here. Lindor, Soto, Alonso, Nimmo, Vientos, assuming they're all in there, all have big power, all can hit it out of this park, no problem. So I love the Mets here against Gillespie, who I don't think is any good. And then Clay Holmes, I think an interesting talking point on this slate. Didn't look good that first outing against the Astros, but they are a contact-oriented team. And yeah, Holmes obviously converting from the bullpen. He actually graded out pretty well stuff-wise in that start, despite the poor results. And I think maybe the results come today against the Marlins, who I think are the worst offense in baseball. So I like Clay Holmes quite a bit here at $7K. I'm not sure where he's going to end up ownership-wise, but Sabres got him around 10%, which is fine by me on this slate. So I like Holmes. I like the Mets. It's all Mets on this one today for me. Stats. What about you? What are you doing with Mets and Marlins here?
I mean, when you look at that Miami lineup, it's like
so bad.
I mean, my buddy texted me the other day. He said, "Do not look. Name one player in the Miami lineup." I'm like, yeah, and I know it was. I think the Sunday lineup was just unbelievable, but or Monday's lineup, but
they're all bad. They don't have any good hitters to put in the lineup, so there's nothing they can do. Yeah.
No, it's just bad. But so they've got they're not even the lowest projected team total though in the betting markets, but the Mets by far the highest team total. So this is the one that a lot of people are going to be jumping on. Sabres got. I mean, you see the ownerships in Sabre on the Mets stacks. It's pretty high. So
I have a hard time believing it because the only way you can get these bats is by going down to 2 pitchers. So I think they're going to be lower than projected. Just my guess.
So that's what I was thinking. And what I was going to say is, like, if that's the case, then we're getting what's that?
There's no way they're going to be lower. There's no offense, and they're like so highly projected. They're definitely not going to be lower.
Right, but if we think this to step 2, that means these high-priced pitchers don't get.
That's all. I mean, you can easily fit 5 Mets though with a spend-up pitcher and a cheap pitcher. Like it's
only
not
if you play
spend up and cheap.
Yeah, like that's going to be the chalk build for sure. There's no way these guys aren't like high owned. There's no way.
On a slate like this, I have to agree with you, but I mean, you could get some. We don't know the lineup yet, but the bottom of the Mets lineup, you should get some savings. I agree with DC.
That's where I want it.
I mean,
that's where I want to go. The bottom where some cheaper
the scrubs. No, I don't want the scrubs. Give me the good hitters.
You want some home run. We want the dongs, and those first 5 guys obviously can do it. But I mean, what's the cheapest guy here that's going to be batting in the top 5? $4,500. I mean, you're paying $6,300 on Soto, $5,300. I mean, maybe T could do the math quicker, but I mean, if we take that as a 5-man?
That is incorrect.
T's a quiet genius, but you know, if we figure out that stat, like what do we need combined pitching if you're going to 5-man stack the Mets here? So, I mean, can you get away with the Skeens and then one of these guys down at 7K or even the 6K? Who was down at 6K? That's I think DC liked earlier, right? Burke down. That's right. Yeah. So I mean, maybe you go that route and 16K and change, and you could get away with it. But there's plenty of cheap secondary stacks that you play with them. 2 and 3-man stacks. I think you could do it. My lean here, yeah, it looks obvious. I gotta fade a stack on a slate like this. If they're going to get anywhere near 15 to 20, low 20% ownership on each of these players, you got to come in underneath that. I mean, it's just too much. I think I don't care how bad Miami is. So I love the Mets stacks, but you got to come in under. I'll say this: the Mets stack does not win the GPP today.
I guess I'm not getting first place then.
That's it. You are so screwed, DC. It's beyond belief.
That's all right. We'll try anyway. I'm playing 1 through 5.
You're gonna just go against me no matter what.
Throw stats. Yeah, I listened to you up till now, but I'm not.
You're the asshole in the anchor seat at the blackjack table who asked me for advice and then goes and when I say you got to stay, he hits anyway. That's you.
That is something I might do. So you're right. You're spot on.
I swear to God, nothing annoys me more than when I get a buddy or someone I'm with. They're like, "What do you think I should do here?" I'm like, "Dude, you gotta fucking stay." And then they go, "I'll take a hit." I'm like, "Fuck you! Don't ever ask me again."
All right, and then they win over here. No blackjack table with stats.
They win and stare you down.
DC, you got a real good shot to win today. Trust me.
I got faith in the Mets. Big T, break the tie. What are you doing with the Mets here?
I'm definitely on stat side. DC is definitely by spending down at pitcher and up for these bats you're not winning with that. That's not happening. I'm definitely.
So the more you guys say it, the better chance I got. And I need all the chips in my
You
favor.
aren't winning with that. I'm even about to put a personal guarantee on it.
Oh.
And the park sucks. Like you're telling me 20% owned spend up bats in this shitty park. Like that's fade city for me. Like fade city. Give me the pitchers. Give me some different offenses like the A's. I am definitely on stats side. I hate this Mets stack. Don't get me wrong. Like it's the best spot, but the park sucks and the pricing sucks. I want to spend up at pitcher, so I'm on stats side, and I'm only playing 4 teams. I'm playing that 250 max thing. I probably won't have any Mets on my 4 teams. I like Holmes, though. I think Holmes comes in mows, but spending on these Mets bats, I mean, there's always tomorrow, DC.
Absolutely. I'll be here tomorrow. I'll be here in the night slate, too. We'll have plenty of content up for the night slate.
We got a good night slate tonight for with the day games going?
I think 4 games.
4 games on FanDuel. I don't know what the DraftKings one is, but yeah, there's 4 games.
I love that.
6:40 start, I think.
We'll be back when my chalky, expensive Mets stack gets owned by
Uncle T is right too. You're like that with JSU. Like you just can't wait to shove them all in there now. Like I'm all in Mets.
I was gonna do so anyway, but you guys talking shit. I'm definitely getting on the Mets here. No, we'll take the L if we need to.
I'll enjoy the ribbing on X when you hit.
Yes.
I think I follow you now, right? Do you see? I follow you now. It took me a year, but I think I do follow.
Yeah, I had to bother you every show for a year, but I think you finally.
Listen, it's not an easy follow to get.
Did you hit the follow and mute in the same, like you pulled up my,
I did. I don't see any of your shit.
All right. Come on, Mets. I need this. I need this one today. All right. That's going to do it for the show. We got, 45 minutes to build lineups. Appreciate everybody watching. As always, we'll have, of course, content up for this early slate and in the main slate as well. Everything you need over at Run Pure Sports. I think maybe a day off the shows tomorrow with very few games on Thursday, but we'll have everything you need, of course, assuming, whatever you need for baseball. So that'll do it for this Swing for the Fences show. Appreciate all you guys watching. For Stats, for Big T, I'm DC, go Mets, and we are out of here.